Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Thank you for being here. My name is Andrew, coming to you from the beautiful Carolinas. Today's topic is going to be when you didn't know then what you do now. Think about that for a minute. Everyone, if you like the content, please like, subscribe, and share. So back then, before you knew what narcissism was, you didn't have the education, you didn't have the wisdom, you didn't know what you were up against, and you certainly didn't know that there were people on the planet that didn't have your best interest at heart, that didn't serve you, that they wanted to take from you. They wanted to use you and your resources to catapult them through life to get to the next level. This is what the narcissist does in a nutshell. But back then you didn't know it. You do now, or you are acquiring the wisdom. You're getting the education. Back then you were probably a people pleaser or a yes person. You certainly couldn't say no, the strongest word in the English language, I can assure you there. But what you did do is you were giving to a fault, and you entered that relationship thinking that that person was like-minded as you were, and that they did have your best interest at heart. Throughout the relationship, once the narcissist knew that they had you, meaning you married them or had kids with them or relocated, etc., that's when they began to really press on the gas pedal of abuse. That's when they began to devalue you. That's when the mask began to slip more often and more often. And that's when you couldn't quite figure out what you had experienced with this person, because you couldn't wrap your head around the fact that somebody in the beginning of the relationship could be or appear to be the best relationship that you had ever entered, meaning that person was the yin to your yang or your soulmate, etc. We now know that they weren't your soulmate, they weren't the yin to your yang, they were a person who was a parasite, and they were trying to take from you, and they were trying to leave you as an empty shell. They wanted you to become an extension of them. They wanted you to pump up their flat, fragile ego. They wanted you to give to a fault, and the whole time you were giving to a fault, they wanted you to continue to tolerate the poor behavior, the gaslighting, the silent treatment, the stonewalling, the rage fits, the triangulation, my least favorite thing these people do. But back then, again, you didn't know what the terms were. You didn't know that there was a glossary of definitions on the narcissistic abusive cycle. You now know that. You probably know most of the terms or definitions, if not all of them. And as we go through life, more and more terms and definitions are coming to the surface. Don't think for a moment that the glossary is filled yet with all the terms and definitions. We are uncovering so much more about narcissism each and every day on the planet, and new terms are being created and new ideas are being formulated. Bear this in mind, not one person, and I mean not one person on the planet, knows everything about the toxic narcissistic relationship. Not me, not you, not others. But what we do is we can couple our experiences with the wisdom that is provided for us, and we can understand what applies to us and what doesn't apply to us. So back then you didn't know what you were up against. Remember, let's take the college example or high school example. When you were a freshman in high school or college, well, you had better expectations placed upon you by that institution of higher learning. In other words, no longer were you in elementary school or grade school. So you had to step up your game, and the subjects got harder and harder, and you had to wrap your head around perhaps what algebra was, or biology, or physics, all these kind of things. But you did it, or perhaps you didn't, and you shifted direction, and you created a different major for yourself when you were in high school or university. Apply the same tool and mentality to the narcissistic abusive cycle. You are becoming awakened and aware. You are becoming educated and empowered, and you have been through something that most people don't go through. Other people who have never gone through the cycle, they can't wrap their head around the person that you were in the relationship with was actually as toxic as they were, because they didn't see the mask slip day in and day out, week after week, month after month. What they experienced were little doses of the person who turned out to be the narcissist. And so their experience with your, let's say your narcissistic relationship, they have little small examples of what they saw. So that is why so frequently the people that get abused the most by the narcissist are the people they see the most and the people that they spend the most time with. That is not exclusive, but many times, let's say your coworker is the narcissist. Well, you have to work with them 8, 10, 12 hours a day. And now you're figuring out that that person is unfixable, and they're trying to break your relationship, not only with them, but with the company, because they're probably going to HR talking about you left, right, and center. Who knows? I'm not trying to trigger you. I'm letting you know that these people are everywhere. Say it was romantic interest. You married the narcissist. Well, if you knew that they were a narcissist before you married them, you wouldn't have done that. But you didn't know that because you didn't know narcissism was prevalent. But now you're figuring it out, and now either you are divorced, you're about to get divorced, or you're looking and creating and developing an exit plan, which you must execute. The narcissist only gets worse over time. They only deteriorate, and they want to take people down for the count throughout their life And when the culmination of the narcissist's life comes to a ending, they are what is called the aging narcissist. This is when they cannot turn the clock back on Father Time, and they have to come to grips and to terms with all the manipulation and deceit and destruction they've administered throughout their life. But again, the narcissist won't be accountable. They won't repent. They won't apologize. They are a shallow, hollow, empty vessel full of toxicity and full of negativity, but you didn't know that back then. So going back to the example, let's say you married the narcissist. Well, you thought you were in a stable, loving, healthy, two-way reciprocal relationship. That wasn't the case. You kept your wedding vows and you did the best you could to continue to keep that relationship together. But that's not what they were doing. What they were doing is trying to puncture holes in that relationship left, right, and center by using techniques, as I mentioned previously, such as triangulation, the smear campaign, rage fits, gaslighting, all these things and more. And this was getting ramped up. Each and every day you were in that relationship, the behaviors were getting worse. Now, in between, intermittently, would there be some fake adoration, fake love, fake empathy, fake love bomb / euphoric stage? Of course there would be, because you were built-in supply for them. And they knew this, and they knew that they needed you. This is one of the main points of the narcissistic relationship that my hope is you can wrap your head around. You don't need them. They needed you. They need people. The narcissist needs people. You could give them a week on a desert island without a smartphone or any other human being, and they have food and shelter and water, of course. They would probably be in a very challenging situation because they have to come to grips, to terms with all the manipulation and all the destruction they've administered to people throughout their life, because they wouldn't have a distraction. They wouldn't have the smartphone. They wouldn't have another person to abuse. They would have to deal with the fact of what they've done. But again, the narcissist isn't going on a desert island anytime soon, although many of us wish that something like that could take place. Having said that, you didn't know back then what you know now, and you're becoming educated and empowered. You are entering the third version of you, the strongest, most galvanized version of you known to humankind. If you haven't done that yet, you're about to, because this is a journey for one, by one, and the person that is going to need to heal is you. It certainly was me. The narcissist doesn't need to heal from any relationship at all, because there is nothing to heal for them. That is why they just slither away and they go on to the new supply, hoping that the new supply will not have the wisdom that you have acquired or you are acquiring. And again, at one point, that was you. Remember, when you entered the relationship with the narcissist, you didn't have the education. Now you're getting it and you're applying the tools and you're understanding that, in fact, going no contact is the path. Blocking them is the path. If you can't do either of those, utilize gray rock, which means become dull and boring, but get off the radar of the narcissist. Many of us have had to relocate cities, towns, states, and countries. Many of us have had to shed all the relationships from the past. Many of us have had all the sleepless nights and the losing weight or gaining weight. Many of us have had to go through the dark night of the soul, although not as many. The point being, whatever your experiences on the post-narcissistic healing path was or is, remember, that is a journey for you, by you. Each and every one of us are headed towards the pinnacle of indifference, the mountaintop of indifference. We are simply taking different footsteps on the path. You may be walking right beside me. Maybe you're a few steps in front of me. Maybe you're way in front of me. Maybe you're behind me. Maybe this is your first video you're ever consuming about narcissistic abuse. Who knows? But back then you didn't know what you know now. So when you get the wisdom and you apply the tools, and perhaps you're considering blocking the narcissist, but you haven't done that yet. You need to understand, back then when you didn't have the wisdom, you didn't have an excuse, you didn't have a reason, because you were naive and you weren't taught this. But now that you know who you're up against and you know that these people are all over the planet, the onus is on you to do the best for yourself. And if blocking and going no contact is the path, I'm certain you will find it challenging at first, to say the least, but as time goes by and days turn into weeks and weeks turn into months, it gets easier and easier, and your energy will return, your health will return, your finances will return, your friendships that have been blown up, many of those will never return because they will be casualties of the relationship, but you will create new friendships. Perhaps you will even fall in love again, or as I mentioned earlier, you will take a class, teach a class, read a book, write a book, you will travel, you will relocate, you will have to really slow your life down and insulate yourself. That's what we do on the healing path. Now, many times again, post-narcissistic relationship, people say, well, Andrew, the new supply is living their best life and they got remarried to the narcissist, or they got married to the narcissist, and what's going on here? What is it? Well, how come that wasn't me? What's going on? Well, the point being there is that person is the new supply is either a recycled former source of supply, they're a toxic person themselves, or they were a person who didn't have the wisdom and they're naive and they're probably giving to a fault like you were. So the new supply is not living their best life, I can assure you. It may seem like that on the exterior. By the way, you shouldn't even know about the new supply. If you're peeking, don't peek at anything of the social media of the narcissist or the new supply. Yeah, it may feel good for a couple seconds, but after you do it, it's going to keep you stuck. And you're going to go backwards again, and you're going to say, why did I look? I can't believe this. Let the stalking and the peeking go to the toxic people. That's not you. You need to understand that you are the priority. You come first, second, and third. And looking at social media of the narcissist will never serve you. It hasn't in the past, and it certainly won't now. And as far as I mentioned stalking with the toxic people, that's what they do many times. They will be peeking at your social media years after the relationship has ended. They will hire flying monkeys to do the bidding for them. They will look for enablers to check up on you. And every once in a while, you may receive a Hoover. Maybe it's been a month, a year, a decade, 30 years, who knows? But the narcissist will always know in the back of their tiny little pea brain that the one that got away was you. And they know it, and you know it, and I know it. And when you got away, you escaped one of the most challenging relationships known to humankind. There is no way you could ever go backwards because you didn't know back then what you know now. And you know how challenging it was to break free from that relationship. So that's why on the channel I suggest so frequently, really understand what you are up against. You dodged a bullet, you made it out, you healed, you're galvanized, you are now reclaiming your hobbies or your relationships. You probably relocated. You're doing whatever you can for yourself in your time. You're not jumping through hoops to appease a unappeasable human being, i.e. the narcissist. And you're not letting someone else control your life. You're not having any of your energy be taken away from you. You've removed all of the flying monkeys, you've removed all the energy vampires, and you've released the narcissist from your existence. This is the path. It's something the narcissist did not think you were strong enough to do, but I knew you could do it because I did it, and if I did it, you can do it. You need to believe in yourself as much as I believe in you. This video, before I close it, is to let you know that, again, if you're considering going no contact, do it. Take action. If not now, when? Understand that once you've identified that you are in a relationship with a toxic narcissistic individual, whether it's your mom, dad, aunt, uncle, brother, sister, mom, whomever, you do not owe anybody anything. You don't owe one person anything. What you owe is yourself peace and serenity and calmness and abundance and a beautiful, bright future. That's what you owe yourself. So drown out the toxicity. Do not take the bait. Understand that these people will vibrate lower than your shoe in the low vibrational quagmire state. That's where they exist. And they captured you for a period of time. They had you down there existing with them. And that's when they're peppering you with abuse. But they can't do that any longer. And when they can't do that, you cut the 4 ties with the narcissist, which are emotional, financial, physical, and spiritual. When you cut those ties, you elevate higher. And that's when the doors of abundance will open up for you. That's when the opportunities will present themselves right in front of you. And that's when you will be scratching your head saying, is this really my life? It's improved this much since I went no contact and since I saved my energy for myself. Yes, it is your life. Amazing things will happen when you release the dead weight of the narcissistic relationship off your shoulders. You will be lighter, you will be freer, you will be safer, you will vibrate higher where nobody can touch you any longer. And that is the path. That's what you must do. If not now, when? So everyone, that's the video. I hope you liked it. I loved doing it from the beautiful Carolinas. This is Andrew. Namaste. Have a great afternoon, evening, or morning, no matter where you are on the planet. You are not alone. Remember that. You are not alone. God bless you all. I love you. And understand, way back then, you didn't know what you were up against. You didn't know what you know now. With this newfound wisdom and education comes a very high responsibility. You see, this is a superpower. It's your superpower, and it's a superpower on steroids, having gone through the cycle and defeated it and come out on the other end and processed so many things. But you're one of the few. You're one of the brave ones. You're one of the strong ones. So you really need to get the message. Now there is no excuse for tolerating poor behavior. Now there is no excuse for leaving toxicity in your life. Now there is an excuse for drowning out all of the noise, all of the negativity, and living your best life. Ooh, a little leaf got me. There it is. So before I close the video, remember, you're not alone. God bless you all. I love you, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. All right. Enjoy yourselves, everyone. I love you. Bye.